Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grosville, and joining me today is Claire Margit. And Claire is a recovering human who empowers people to choose a full life over an easy one. As a massage therapist, educator, and motivational speaker, her own story of healing helps lead others into love and away from fear. Welcome to the show, Claire.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy I'm here.
I am so glad to have you here. So tell me a little bit before we get started. What do you mean by a recovering human? I don't hear that very often.
I think like at its face value, I am actively in recovery. I've been sober for 10 years this October.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Hashtag pain meds and all the meds. And then I think when you enter those recovery circles, you realize that it wasn't just chemicals that you were dependent on, but a lot of other things that helped you kind of manage your humanity in a way that maybe wasn't conducive to your highest self. And so when I say recovering human, I mean just like, I'm here, I'm a human, I'm good and I'm hard and I'm okay with that, and I'm here. Does that make sense?
Making a difference every day.
Yes.
Yes, in your own lives and the lives of everyone around you.
Everyone, just a little bit of brightness for someone and myself.
And sometimes that's really all that we can ask for.
Yep. A smile.
All right. So I want to take us back to when you were first diagnosed. Can you kind of share with us where you were, what was going on in your life, and a little bit about your diagnosis?
Yes. The first time I was 19. So my sister had died 3 years prior from pediatric brain cancer, my younger sister.
Wow.
And then here I am at 19. I had come home from art school in Chicago, back to California. I had this giant swollen node right here that I was kind of putting off going to my GP for. And I went, he took one look at me, and knowing my family history and everything, that night, like didn't let me leave his doctor's office, called the imaging place and was like, I need to get this girl in right now. So they stayed open late and they did the imaging. And a week later, I'm getting staged and buying wigs and all of that.
So you were diagnosed with
Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Hodgkin's lymphoma.
The first time, stage 3. So
Wow.
Everywhere above and below diaphragm, except it was just not in my bone marrow.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's what differentiates the staging for lymphoma.
Okay. Now you said family history. So other than your sister, do you have other family members?
Just my
sister
sister
as well. Okay.
Just my sister. And that, I mean, I was so grateful to have Hodgkin's lymphoma and not a glioblastoma. Like, because I had been raised, it was 10 years of UCLA pediatric oncology wards and just watching death and everything, all that, just for 10 years. And I knew that Hodgkin's was really responsive to treatment and that I was going to be okay. It was going to be really awful, but I would be okay. And I was. And I did 12 rounds of ABVD,
which is
adriamycin, bleomycin, vinblastine, and doxorubicin.
Okay, chemo drugs.
I think that's. I just remember the red devil. The red, like one of them is the nurses come out fully in full garb, because if the medicine touches your skin, if it's exposed to oxygen, it melts your flesh. Oh, and here they are, like just pumping it into you. And I'm 19 and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
Here we are. But I didn't have to do radiation that time, and I didn't freeze any eggs, eggs.
Well, at 19, I'm sure you weren't even thinking about
I
that.
mean, they were like, do you want to do this? You know, I was like, no, I don't. And then I moved to Denver. So that was round one. Is that kind of
Okay.
any that
And
yeah.
you were like cured, put into remission. What
In
did they call it?
remission, in remission. And
Okay.
their whole thing is you've got 5 years. If you can make it 5 years to like, if you can make it 5 years cancer free, you're good.
Okay. Something to look
That's
forward to.
yeah. And then I got cancer again. and then at 3 years, 3 years of remission, it came back. I had a little 5-week-old, little Lucy, my oldest. And that was the one that kind of did me in. That diagnosis rocked me in
In what way?
um, all the ways. I was it was the first time I faced mortality. I mean, I flatlined like during the bone marrow transplant. I had a
Wow.
total cytokine, like it was it was awful. It was hell. And to have this little baby who didn't recognize me. And so the treatment for that one was, let's see, I I had I knew something was off when I got the scan. Because you get really good at reading text, like, and I knew that something was off. And I went home. I couldn't hold my baby because I was radioactive after the PET scan, and like they didn't tell me that I couldn't breastfeed for like 48 hours, and I didn't have anything stored up. And it was just from the moment it happened, it was just effed.
So
And then
was the actual cancer different this time than the first time, or just the fact that it came back, you needed to go harder on
yeah,
treating it? Okay.
protocol for yeah, it was actually stage 2 the second time. I think the location of the tumors made it really difficult. I had mediastinal, in this area here, so the biopsies meant collapsing lungs and going in through, like, it was just from the it was a totally different taste, a totally different flavor than the first time. And it was and then oncofertility on top of that. So like at the you get the scan, you get the imaging, and then they go over the results with you, and it's back, right? And I remember on the drive home thinking like, oh my God, I have to go back to this newborn. My mother-in-law is watching this baby. I opened the door and everyone's crying, and I wouldn't hold her. I couldn't hold her because in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to die. Like, the less this little girl knows me, the better. And then it was awful. And then you go and you get staged, and you meet with the oncologist. And University of Colorado Hospital is just phenomenal. They had taken the liberty of setting up an oncofertility appointment, just like I think like 2 floors up, right after my staging, kind of that appointment with the doctor. And so we went right up, and they kind of explained how oncofertility works, and they were at the forefront of it. This was 13 years ago.
And you're like 22, 23 years old, so you're still
23. Yeah.
like trying to figure out your own life, and now all
Very.
this comes up. Okay.
Yeah. But again, this is the world I grew up in. So
Sure.
this is a language and a battle that I know. Like, I have these tools. I would, looking back as a recovering human, I would think that maybe I didn't have all the necessary tools to be able to feel feelings fully and know how to navigate grief but I had a lot of the tools. And then we did like, they didn't, we said yes to oncofertility. I wanted more children. I had this little girl. So that was 3 weeks of oncofertility. And then they
what did
started.
that entail?
That was follistem, like a lot of the follicle building, right? It's IVF essentially.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
it's very accelerated. Just a very accelerated round of IVF because they want to get you started with chemo as soon as possible to prevent the growth of your cancer.
So it's really harvesting your eggs just very quickly. Okay, gotcha.
And they've got they're monitoring. I don't know. They wanted to do a documentary and like interview us and all that and maybe explain more, but I was like, absolutely not. Just no. So we did that. And then I did 3 weeks of like 3 rounds of ICE chemo. And I don't remember what those stand for.
That's okay.
And those were week-long inpatient infusion. So you're in for a week, you get, it's 5 days, and you do that, and then you recover, and then you're off for like 2 weeks, and then you're back in for another week. And then they harvest your stem. So then you go in and because I had an autologous stem cell or transplant or bone marrow transplant, meaning that because mine wasn't in my bone marrow, again, they could use my own stem cells.
Gotcha.
I didn't need a donor. So that we spent one day, I forget how long it was, that just they're like pulling, I had a trilumen port at this point. So the 3 lines coming out versus just the portacath, which is concealed. So in one, they're pulling blood out. In another, they're pumping your blood after it's been filtered and your stem cells have been removed. It's like a whole wall. It's just huge, the machine. And then maybe fluids in the third one or something.
Wow.
And then you recover a little because you've just had ICE chemo. And it's actually about this time of year. I was admitted to the 11th floor of University Hospital, August 1st, which was our second anniversary. Or maybe it was like July 31st. Okay. And then was discharged at the very end of August. So about this time.
Wow.
And that was a month of death. It was chemo. I mean, they get you as close to zero as your numbers, as there's the whiteboard, they're writing down your numbers, you're tracking them, they're getting them low. How much of her can we kill? Right? Because they really want to get this. They really want to get it this time. And then you get your new birthday, and that's when they re-inject your stem cells back into you, in my case. And mine took, and then I went home with a whole boatload of trauma and rage and fear and a lot of prescriptions.
Okay. But cancer-free?
Cancer-free. Oh, and then radiation. But I was actually getting a massage yesterday, and this is around the time of year, and I don't remember anything about radiation. I have still, for all the healing I've done, there must have been something really gnarly. I dissociated hardcore. Because I have 3 tattoos that I have no memory of getting. I don't remember the doctor's fit. I've got a little work left to do, Melissa. I was talking to my therapist, my body worker, and I was like, okay, I guess I have my next loving step. I guess I know what I have to figure out, or just to notice next.
I think we always have stuff. I think when we're done with our stuff, that's when we leave this world. I think until that point, there's always improvement. There's always stuff that we can work on. There's always stuff that we can heal. So you've got plenty of time left to work on all that stuff.
I will take it all. All the time. Give me time.
All right. So second time was the charm. Obviously you're 13 years out and still cancer-free.
Yep.
Congratulations.
My neutrophils test just did all my blood work. Everything's normal. I'm discharged from oncology. I don't even have to go to my oncologist. No more PET scans, no more anything.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I am as likely to get lymphoma again as you are. That's what they tell me. That as a general population, I am good. My risk of other cancers go up because of treatment and radiation, but lymphoma, we're good.
So we still get our scans, we still get checked,
mammograms,
and we live as healthy of a life as we can.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So here we are, age 23, little baby, new marriage. Just boatload of pills.
Lots of pills.
Okay. And you alluded to in the beginning that took you down a path that
Oh,
fortunately you are 10 years sober from now. So congratulations.
thank you.
And you were able to have how many more children?
3 more.
So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah,
Nice.
my second made medical history. She
In what
was
way?
in the way that I was 6 months post BMT and I got pregnant, and she survived a PET scan so the same scan where I had to like sign a waiver saying I wouldn't hold my firstborn after the PET scan, right? And couldn't breastfeed her for 2 days. My second survived in utero. And that's, that's happened. But my doctors, when we found out that I was pregnant, I mean, I was still growing back eyebrows, and bone marrow transplants kill everything. We had 18 frozen embryos.
So this was a natural
Oh
pregnancy.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I've had
Wow.
4 children, no periods.
Oh my gosh.
It was why, I mean, truly the other two, because there are some, there are studies that say if you're a really young woman, if you're younger when you receive your BMT, your bone marrow transplant, and there are like a very small number of women who can regain fertility after like 6 years, between 6 and 10 years. But to be 6 months out and to have been 23 had never, I mean, that was one of the reasons that Oncofertility wanted to interview us. Like, what happened? Oh, but she survived. Yeah, she killed it.
She
She
was
sued.
meant to be in this world.
Yeah, they all were.
Of course. So all three of your other children were all natural as well. You
All
didn't use any of
natural.
those embryos.
No.
Congratulations. Wow,
Thank
that is a
you.
medical
Yeah.
miracle.
Yeah, truly. I mean, it killed me. It ruined my ruined my connective tissues. And part of, part of what got me into rehab 10 years ago was I put my third, I was on all these prescriptions, and my third child, my son, was born dependent on them and had to go in the NICU and, withdraw. And it was horrific. And I looked at him in this little bassinet, these little, those plastic beds that they put them in. And he was getting so much care. And I was like, oh, I think I need to go someplace like that. I think I need to go receive care. And 2 weeks later, I was in rehab. So
Wow.
they all saved me in a little way.
That is so inspirational.
Thank you.
And he's doing well
Oh yeah,
today.
he's great. He's a little punk. He loves soccer and has plans to go meet Messi, the soccer player Messi, his son.
Yes, Lionel Messi.
He's got a whole scheme. He's going to go to Miami and be best friends with this little kid, and then he'll get into Messi's circle. And yeah, he's great.
Oh,
They're all
I
great.
love that. Plus having to deal with 3 sisters, I'm sure that's never a dull moment for him.
Nope.
All right. So you said that all of this ruined your connective tissue. So I'm assuming that is kind of what started leading you down the path that you did. So can you kind of share with us how you got into what you're doing today and what you're doing today?
Yes. So I was left with a host of just body problems, both from the trauma of my childhood, but then compounded by both of my diagnoses, and then these medicines that really work your brain, like not a great way, alter your brain chemistry. And I go to rehab, and I've got horrific chronic pain. I have a handicap plaque. I'm using a cane in a lot of places. And a therapist says, a talk therapist at rehab goes, "Have you ever been touched?" And I said, "No. What do you mean?" And she goes, "Massage. Like, have you ever been therapeutically accessed that way?" And I hadn't. And so I started getting body work done regularly, and it changed my life. It changed everything. So for 3 years, I was kind of just, I was coming back into me, right? I was in active recovery. So my brain was getting back online. I was getting a lot of different types of body work, chiropractor, lymphatics, which is now what I kind of specialize in, and just scar work, like we have these scars on our body, and I didn't realize the energy behind all the scar tissue, both visible and not visible, because radiation can wreak havoc on your internal structures in a way that no one talks about. And then I was like, oh crap, I think maybe I have to go to massage school. So then I went to massage school. I went to Colorado School of Healing Arts. It was, they say there's a saying that you go to massage school not just to learn how to heal other people, but to heal yourself. And that was a year of really, really intense learning on every level. And it was when I took lymphatics that the game changed for me, which I always thought was interesting because I had cancer of my lymphatic system. But it was everything. And so I graduated, I opened a practice, but I had always I'd always kind of wanted to be a DO or an RN or like work in the medical field, just because those guys, I have such respect for them, having kept my sister alive the way they did and me alive. Right. So I was like, what do I'm not done. I had this practice. It was successful. It was wonderful. It was really fulfilling. And then I went back to school and completed pre-med and like all the hard sciences. And that gave me a whole new understanding and a little bit of authority, right? In these places, because I work with a lot of physicians and I do a lot of education. And so it helped round out. And now I own a practice. I have a therapist, Soraya, who works for me, and I go around and just kind of proselytize lymph and autonomically minded body work. We're not just rubbing muscles. We're helping you see your internal structures, which are a lot of the time the most impacted by cancer, by trauma. And so a majority of our clients are cancer survivors or currently in treatment.
So now when you opened your first practice, you were just doing, I don't want to say basic massage, but had you already kind of specialized in the lymphatic piece, or were you just doing all over body work? And then I guess, was it going through pre-med that changed all that, or where did that shift happen?
I'm an overachiever. I'm a Capricorn and the oldest of four. So I had stacked my lymphatics and my oncology courses in massage school onto my last 2 terms of massage school. So I graduated that year already knowing that I was going to specialize in oncology and lymphatics specifically. Okay. So Prism, my practice, has only ever existed as a medical massage, clinic, specializing in lymphatics and perioperative work and all that.
Okay. So for those people who don't know, can you, without getting too medical, kind of talk a little bit about the lymphatic system, about lymph, and about its importance in cancer, diagnosis, treatment, recovery?
Yes. So the system itself is just a series of straws slurping up constantly. It's a one-way system. So unlike your circulatory system where it's, arteries, veins, lymphatic vessels are just one way, and it all returns up here, into your heart.
And there's no pump like the circulatory system has the heart that pumps everything.
Correct. Right. The main movers of lymph are your diaphragmatic breathing. So a lot of the education we do at the practice revolves around proper breathing, movement.
And I'm sure everybody just like me took a deep diaphragmatic breath.
Yep. I mean, truly, more than half the lymph nodes in your body are in your gut. So diaphragmatic breathing, movement, a couple other factors. But yeah, no pump like that, like your heart. And so that's kind of really basic physiology and an anatomy.
What does the lymphatic system do?
Yeah, it's a filtration and a transport system. That's how I describe it. So it's autonomically innervated, which means it's an automatic thing that happens, just like your food gets transported through your gut, right? Your lymph gets your lymph gets slurped up in your tissues. And it, what was your question? Wait, what did you say?
What is the purpose of the
Oh yeah,
lymphatic
so,
system?
sorry, filtration and transport.
Yeah.
So it's filtering. So there's the vessels that are transporting. They're doing the slurping, and then they're slurping to and through delivering that fluid to nodes. And the nodes are the filtration system. Nodes are kind of the water treatment plants. And so in terms of cancer, when something metastasizes, it's because it's made it through the lymphatic system in that way. And so for a long time, it was actually lymphatics and massage were kind of like no-nos when you had cancer, until more studying was done, and we realized that you're moving lymph constantly anyway. Getting your lymphatic system accessed is not going to speed that up necessarily. And if you're in there's tons of things, and there are lots. If you're oncology trained, or you take my lymphatic course, you learn all the contraindications, or the thumbs up and the thumbs down.
I would say a lot of doctors still, and I've heard it, a lot of doctors still say that you should not get a massage when you're in active treatment, because they think that it can push the cancer cells further into your lymph system and metastasize it, unfortunately.
That's a bummer. No, yeah, it's not. Studies have shown otherwise. And
so is massage recommended like right from the get-go? Is there a time period that that you should not during this process?
It's so variable. Baseline, your therapist needs to be trained, right? You have to have an oncology. You should. If it were me, again, or if you were my sister or my brother, I would say make sure your therapist has done oncology, has taken an oncology course, for like a body work focused, and make sure that if you're getting lymphatic work, that your therapist has had both beginning. Preferably, I teach beginning, intermediate, and advanced lymphatics. I would want someone who's had up to advanced lymphatics.
Sure.
And it's so client comfort based, that it's whatever, it depends, the meds you're on, when you get them, how they're administered, how are you feeling after this infusion 2 weeks out, but a trained therapist will know all the right questions to ask, and will know what to do with the information. And trauma touch is a really big, to be trauma informed. To trauma touch therapy is a course offered at the school, at Colorado School of Healing Arts. It was developed by Chris Smith, who's the director, and it's just a really beautiful tool, a really awesome little tool to have in your toolbox if you're a therapist. No, because you're reading, so much goes unsaid on a table, especially when you're dealing with bodies like ours that have been really ravaged in a lot of ways. And then you add we I don't know about you, but I become a different person when I step into a treatment room sometimes. I feel like I lose a little bit of power, or part of my nervous system remembers, oh, things happen to me here, I don't happen here. And so a lot of trauma touch is reestablishing authority for a client, for a patient, and helping them get inside their body, and helping them experience sensation again, and using lymphatics and everything to do that.
And cancer is a trauma, no matter how easy or hard it was. It is a trauma to your body, and having that, and we become very vulnerable when we step into a treatment room, just because of, what has happened to us, regardless of what that is. So I love hearing about how much more trauma touch is talked about, because there are people out there who need body work, but they have this trauma response and feel like they can't. So I love that is becoming more and more of a thing, so people going through these traumas can still be touched in a way that continues to make them safe.
To receive care, just to receive care, to be seen, right? That's all. I feel like that's all we massage therapists are, just seeing structures and reflecting them back to you and letting you decide what you want to do with what we notice together on the table. And that's the ultimate empowerment. And cancer strips power and
Absolutely.
strips choice and all of that.
Now, talk about a little bit about the difference between lymphatic massage and regular massage. So the lymphatic massage, you're not getting like pounded or, what most people think of regular massage, correct?
Correct. And there are, even under the umbrella of lymphatics, I have students who are like, who will show me pictures of these Brazilian, like post-op plastic surgery stuff where it's like very rigorous and the truth is, if you're moving tissue, you're moving lymph, because those vessels are all in there, right? There is there under that umbrella, there are more impactful techniques or tools, and so some of the key features of a more traditional lymphatic drainage session is a lighter touch. So between a half ounce and 8 ounces, because 70% of the vessels in our body are just right here in our dermis and hypodermis. So if I press too hard, I'm collapsing those vessels, right? I want to hook into their natural rhythm. That peristalsis is the word, the slurping. I want to hook in. And there's a visible rhythm. And a trained therapist will know how to find it and know what it is and all of that. So lighter touch is one. Your people get very tight. It's you go into like a zone. Lymphatics are real zen. You may feel interesting sensations throughout your body because stimulation of the slurping in one spot can alleviate slurping. Like if I'm in your up here at your neck, clients a lot of time will say like, I feel that in my big toe. That's so weird. That's because we're stimulating the system, right? It's so just weird. People experience things that they don't expect a lot of the time. You'll always be told to drink a lot of water before and after. You move about 3 liters, 1 gallon of lymph a day, just naturally, and getting manual lymphatic drainage or having a therapist in there can increase that 10 to 30 liters. So you really want to make sure you're hydrated. Those are the basics. Lighter touch, just kind of, it's different. It's weird, people say, but they love it. And you feel refreshed afterwards. You feel, at Prism, we're in your gut a lot. At my practice, we do a lot of belly and visceral work because, like I said, more than half the nodes in your body are in your gut. So that's another thing. People are not people don't get their bellies rubbed a lot. And that's part of our intake, is like, how comfortable are you and people in your stomach? And we explain the physiology and show them the posters. And then they're like, oh yeah, you can do that. And we're like, great. And then they're in their bellies constantly. Then they're like, oh wow, that feels great. I can stand up straight, or I can breathe, or, whatever.
Okay. Well, I definitely, I want to get you back on for kind of a solo episode, because we're starting to run out of time. I just love talking about all of this, and I really want to get more into lymphedema,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to shortcut it and just like breeze through it really quickly. So if you would be open to coming on for another episode and really talk about lymphedema, but I want you to just, I don't even want to say the highlights, but just give, because like I talked to you about before, I never knew when I was going through my treatments that lymphedema was even a thing, that it was even a risk. And I found out later when I was studying for my exercise specialist cancer certification how big of a deal it is. So can you just kind of share a little bit, and like I said, we'll go into more detail next time, about lymphedema and the risks from any kind of cancer and cancer treatment?
Absolutely. Cancer, so lymphedema that you see diagnosed during cancer is usually what's going to be called secondary lymphedema. So there's two, there's primary and secondary. Primary you're born with is congenital. Secondary is your lymphatic system has been impacted in some way. So for survivors and for me, I'll use me even. It usually means you've had nodes removed. So those water treatment plants, you've got a few less workers in them, right? And that means that the load doesn't go away, but you have less workers to manage the load. And then you add so nodes, impact nodes removed, and if you add radiation on top of that, then whatever workers are left in the, I'm touching my node spots, or for breast cancer, most of it's breast cancer, right? So people have had nodes removed in their axilla, their armpits. Then the workers that are there have been fried, right, because of radiation. So though that's kind of the basis of like a secondary lymphedema diagnosis is you've had a node removed and you've been irradiated. Now there are a lot of factors which we can talk about next time that impact the quality of the lymph and treatment you can do to keep the tissue happy and juicy, to make whatever's left and there and working even happier, and all of that. But does that answer that question?
Yes. And just tell me real quick, kind of I don't want to end on a bad note, but
Yeah.
anybody who has had lymph nodes removed or has had lymph nodes radiated
Higher
does
risk.
have an increased risk
And it
of
doesn't. I've
lymphedema.
had clients who had like 8 nodes removed and have insane scarring, and there's no lymphedema. They still are aware of the risk, and then when they fly, they wear compression, and they have their self-care that they do every day. And I've had clients who've had 2 nodes removed and hardly any radiation, and gone up. We live in Colorado, taken a little drive up to the mountains, and have come back and they can't get their ring off. And in 24 hours, they have stage 1 diagnosed lymphedema, and lymphedema is irreversible. So once those lymphatic vessels are blown, they're blown. Once the structures are blown, they're blown.
And again, I don't want to
Yeah,
end this on
I
a
know. I know.
on a,
No,
on
no,
a
no,
rough
no.
note. And so I guess lymphedema is very similar in a lot of ways to cancer itself. Like you can do all the right things and still get it. You can do all the wrong things and never get it. It's just really kind of the luck of the draw. And we talked about that doctors don't necessarily talk about it so much because there are so many
So many
variables
variables,
and they
even
just don't have
within,
the
yeah,
time.
yeah. And even within, you're not, there are lymphedema, there are ways that an arm is segmented, and doctors aren't tracking what nodes they're removing necessarily and how that's going to affect this pattern of drainage. And so, if you happen to lose 3 nodes that drain 1 lymphatome, and I'm using big words that, then that lymphatome is impacted. But if you remove 2 from, it's so variable. It's such a cluster, literally, right? It's like just a cluster of nodes. And to end this on a good note, right? This is what I tell clients is the story you tell about lymphedema, about the what, either the lymphedema you have diagnosed or the lymphedema you're afraid or trying to prevent, you're afraid of getting or trying to prevent. That story can be more impactful than any of the factors that could contribute to your lymphedema. Because if you're stressed out, you're releasing cortisol everywhere, right? And cortisol is highly inflammatory. Cortisol has a unique ability to impact DNA and how you're expressing tissues. The biggest gift you can give your lymphatic system is a regulated nervous system. And so that's why at Prism, and that's why we just really, really stress taking care of your nervous system. Stay regulated, ground, get in soil, look at flowers, get cranial sacral work, get lymphatic work, like whatever brings you joy, whatever makes you feel like the biggest, brightest version of yourself, do that as much as possible.
Love that. That is a great way to end
Yeah.
this. And maybe for me, because I was going to Europe, it was my 30th wedding anniversary. Like I was as happy as you can possibly
Yes,
be that it just never even entered into my
truly.
thinking flying across the world. So yes.
Truly. I mean, because even that, like, you think about what fear makes your interstitium cloudy. It impacts the quality of your tissue. Stress is the number one killer.
Yes, it
And
is.
if your interstitium is cloudy and has these big molecules in it, then your lymphatic system has more to manage. And so I truly, that's why I tell everyone, man, like get your nervous system regulated and the rest falls into place. And I am proof of that.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Stop and smell the flowers. All the
Yes.
things. I
Yes.
love it.
Flowers.
All right. Well, I am when as soon as we get off, we are going to schedule
Love
another
it.
time to really go into the nuts and bolts of lymphedema and lymph massage. In the meantime, how can people get a hold of you if they want more information, if they want to connect with you, if they want to learn more about Prism?
Yeah. So Prism has an Instagram page. It's Prism Body. And we have a website, prism body.com. And we have a ton of educational stuff there. There's pages, beautiful. That's a great place to get started. It has kind of what we offer baseline. It has our ethos, why we work with cells and what that means, like all that stuff. There's scheduling. You can call and talk to us. All our contact info is there. And we have the best job in the world. Truly.
Great. We will definitely put all of that in the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much for this today.
Thank
This is so
you.
great. And we are going to go into, we're just going to do a deep dive next time on
We should do
all
it at the
things
office.
because this is so, so important for anybody. I mean, anybody, but definitely cancer patients, cancer survivors who have had lymph nodes removed or irradiated, which is probably most of us,
A lot.
unfortunately.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, even me.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we will be back to do more of this soon.
Deal. Thank
All
you for
right.
having me.
Bye bye.
Bye.